But bananas are a climacteric fruit, a lot like a lot of the other commodities we've been talking about, and there's many different kinds of banana and banana relatives. And so probably plantains, which is a close relative to the typical banana we buy at the store, and there's many different kinds of other specialty bananas. They all will respond to ethylene if you want to trigger ripening of these. Okay, so, but I'm going to talk about the normal run-of-the-mill banana that you can buy at the store today, but the principles are going to be the same. The plantain is a little bit special because the plantain has very, very high levels of starch, and it can be used in cooking as an unripe fruit or a ripened fruit, but even when it is ripe, it has higher levels of starch when the fruit is ripe. So the quality of a ripe banana depends on many factors, and you've seen basically this list for other commodities already. So harvest maturity, the more mature the banana is, the better the quality up to until it reaches that point. Bananas typically are harvested in a mature, unripe state. They can ripen on the plant, but first of all, you're not going to give them to long distance market because bananas are grown in tropical areas and transported around the world. That is one thing. So they're picked in a mature green state, and I'll show you a picture of that in a few minutes. The skin of the banana is very susceptible to bruising. And so it's very important to minimize and handle the fruit very carefully after harvest. And the expression of the scuffing that you can see on a banana peel is accentuated if the fruit are held under relatively low humidity. And so humidity management during handling of the banana, especially in ripening and putting it out on display at the retail level, at the final point of sale, is very, very important. Again, just like everything else, temperature management is very important. We'll cover a little bit about optimizing ripening conditions, and then handling the fruit and taking it to the consumer as soon as possible after ripening. Therefore, unlike a lot of other commodities that we've talked about, that ripening, like what Beth talked about, ripening can be initiated at the packing house. Here with bananas, the ripening is usually done either by specialty ripening banana ripeners or at the retail level in distribution warehouses prior to distribution to the retail store. So it's done right before the banana is supposed to be marketed. So maturity in bananas is based largely on the size of the banana finger and the shape. So you can see in this picture up here, the banana is sort of round. That's what we like to see. We don't like to see the banana to have sharp, to be angular. So sort of like what Jeff talked about, that in the mango, the shoulders fill out as the fruit matures. In bananas, you'll have that rounding effect. And so the idea is to pick the banana when it's 3/4 to full round. And that would be the minimum maturity index for picking the bananas. Now, if you pick the bananas beforehand, then the ripening quality is not as pleasing when the fruit is finally ripened. Now, I mentioned about relative humidity and that linked to bruising, and so it is well known that if the fruit are held under low humidity and they've had bruising to the peel of the fruit, that you will see a manifestation of this browning. And we all know if you buy a really ripe banana and try to take it home and it ends up in the bottom of the grocery bag, it doesn't look too good the following day. So, and that's all because the peel is very susceptible to bruising and scuffing. And so you can also get, we've all seen also this internal bruising of bananas when you go to eat a banana and there's this big translucent spot. And again, because the fruit is very susceptible, especially when it is partially ripe to impact damage. So this slide shows the impact of relative humidity. So this is work that was done here at UC Davis. Here are bananas that were ripened under 100% relative humidity and 95% humidity. And then here is one that was ripened under 65% humidity. And the point here being is that the low humidity accentuates the scuffing and it enhances the browning of the peel when the fruit is ripe. So there's different stages of ripening similar to the different stages of tomato ripening that was shown. And so typically the fruit will be received in either stage 1 or stage 2, and the fruit are normally ripened to somewhere in here. This one you can see, actually, I'm looking at this picture. This fruit, you see how angular that one is. That fruit would be immature. Okay, you want it to be, you don't want to see those ridges to be highly pronounced. But typically the fruit are ripened to a stage 3 or a stage 4 and then move to the final point of use or sale. Now the banana has a high degree of starch, so we can use a dye, potassium iodide, as an indicator of starch. And so when there is starch present, it turns black. And that's what you see, that as the fruit are even going into stage 4, you can see there's high levels of starch in the banana. So the banana continues ripening, much like the kiwi fruit. That starch, which is a linked chain of glucose units, is broken down into free glucose. And that's why that fruit goes from sort of that pasty, chalky flavor when you eat an unripe banana or one that's not completely ripened to being something that is sweet. That starch has been broken down into individual glucose units, and that we perceive as sweet. So the banana is a climacteric fruit, and so what you can see here again, you can see that as the respiration rate goes, it's actually correlated with color change, and also then the change in starch and the change in the softening of the fruit. Okay, and so this would be about a stage 3 to 4 right in here. So we'd be taking the fruit during ripening down to about that point, peak climacteric. So how much ethylene do you need to use? Here's an air control. This is 2 days of ethylene plus 2 days of air at 68 degrees or 20 degrees Celsius. Air control, 10 parts per million, 100 and 1,000. And basically no difference, because the physiological threshold for causing ripening of the banana is below 10 parts per million. But from a practical perspective, we would probably use about 100 parts per million. There's really no reason in the days of now that we have forced air ripening rooms to ever go up to 1,000 parts per million. You can, yes?
Well, I see, at least in Europe, that most ripeners still use maybe 500 parts per million in the ripening. So,
are you using forced air ripening though?
But still they use quite high doses.
I would say that, you know, that I don't know how leaky those rooms are, but from a physiological perspective, you don't really even need 100 parts per million, but we use 100 parts per million because of leakiness of the rooms and because you need to get good distribution of the ethylene. So if they're using 500, then I would be looking at how well they distribute the air through the room, how good the temperature management is, how leaky the room is, and perhaps they don't need 500 parts per million. You're well above the physiological requirement of the fruit. So this slide shows, okay, so the fruit comes from tropical regions of the world. It is highly chilling sensitive, and so the threshold for chilling injury is roughly around 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is another slide that was generated here at Davis. They stored the bananas for 2 weeks at 0 degrees, and that's not stained with iodide. That is what happened to the peel of the fruit. The fruit turns black, complete failure to ripen. Even when we store the fruit at 41 degrees, you can see extensive chilling injury to the peel, again, failure to ripen. The threshold for chilling injury, as I said, is right around 50 degrees. And if you look carefully, there's a little bit of bronzing on these bananas, which would indicate that potentially these fruit have a little bit of an incipient chilling injury. At 15 degrees or 59 degrees Fahrenheit, you can see the fruit did ripen during that 2 weeks. And at 20 degrees or 68 degrees, so just a 9-degree Fahrenheit temperature difference, you can see that the fruit went to being completely overripe. So temperature is important in bananas. The point here being is that they're highly chilling sensitive. And so this is just another thing here. You can see fruit that are held, and these are fruit that were held at a chilling temperature, and you can see that bronzing. And I know that happens because a lot of times when I go to the grocery store, I buy a lot of bananas, but I don't buy bananas that are bronzed like that. And the discoloration is actually occurring right below the peel. So if you peel away into the white part of the peel, you can see that the vascular bundles have turned brown. So other symptoms then would be failure to ripen, and actually in very severe cases you can have browning of the flesh. So again, this just shows you how quickly that chilling injury can develop. So this is no damage, vascular darkening of in the peel, graying of the peel, skin darkening, and severe darkening. And you can see when the fruit are held either at 50 or even at 54, within 2 days you can start seeing these symptoms occurring on the peel of the fruit. Whereas the fruit that was held at 57 or 68 degrees showed no symptoms. So how about high temperature when you ripen bananas at high temperature? This is again data that was generated by here at, I believe here at Davis, where if we have the fruit, this is 59, 68, 77, 86, and 96 degrees. This could be 84 and 96 degrees. The point here being is that eating quality actually is pretty flat. The color quality is good until you get to above 77 degrees, and then you're actually inhibiting color development of the ripening fruit. It's very similar to other commodities. You heard that on mangoes from Jeff. And then the firmness of the fruit is greatly affected by the ripening temperature. So when you ripen much above 20 degrees, you actually get sort of the texture of the flesh of the fruit is less than ideal. So temperature management within the ripening room is also very important. So there's been a lot of work on trying to delay the ripening of the bananas or slow it down once it's initiated. The main thing is to manipulate it by what temperature you ripen the banana at. There has been work done looking at modified atmosphere packaging at these intermediate temperatures. There was we heard this yesterday about how a MCP treated fruit is chalky and not very good to eat, but it is known that 1 MCP can delay the ripening of the banana and, more importantly, the sugar spotting. I personally I use the sugar spotting as an indicator of when I want to eat a banana, but there you are. 1 MCP can delay the development of those sugar spots as well. So in terms of using temperature, this is a slide that I got from Jim Thompson. You want to control the carbon dioxide in the ripening room to less than 1%. But and here again, that effect that if you go above 65 degrees flush temperature, you can get the soft pulp. But here we are. We have roughly a 24-hour treatment of ethylene. but the fruit have been treated at 2 different temperatures. So this would be a short cycle in which you are ripening the fruit, and the fruit will be ripe much quicker than if you use the fruit are ripened at a lower temperature. So the speed or the time that you need to get the fruit to the retail level can be manipulated by what temperature you ripen the fruit. This is just to show the effect of carbon dioxide. I think if you look at this, here is a control, 1, 3, and 5. You can see that these fruit are greener, especially at the 5%, than the ethylene control. However, when the fruit are taken out for an additional 2 days in air, there is not that much difference. But in the ripening room, letting carbon dioxide build up can slow the coloration of the peel of the fruit and the ripening process. This is just to show, this is some work that was done by Adulcator many years ago. Controlled atmosphere, here is the air, and this is 8 days of controlled atmosphere at 58 degrees, followed by 2 days in air. And you can see that using the controlled atmosphere treatment for those 8 days actually slows down the ripening of the fruit. So in summary, ripening of bananas should occur between 14 to 18 degrees Celsius or 58 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit. High humidity because of that abrasion damage, 100 parts per million. The ethylene treatment, the duration of the treatment, 24 to 48 hours, depending on how fast you want to move the bananas to retail in combination with temperature. And as with many other talks that you've heard today, you want to keep the carbon dioxide below 1%. So that was the last slide. If there's any questions.